So don't be fooled by what you see on the gram. Don't be fooled on TikTok. Don't be fooled by these health coaches with no doctoral degrees. You have to have the proper diagnosis and the proper protocol built to not only get rid of these parasites, but to make sure that they don't come back. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Doc Jacque Show. Today is going to be a topic that has been a long time coming. I actually thought I shot this already because I had all the notes already made. Everything was good to go, and I forgot to shoot it. This one is going to be kind of, I wanted to, as I was going there, maybe I want to do it like this. Have you or a loved one been scammed into doing a parasite cleanse? And the reason I say that is because time and time again, especially last year into this year, everyone is all into the world of you need to do a parasite cleanse. You have parasites. Everybody has parasites. You need to do parasites. Your kid needs to do parasite cleanses. Everybody needs to do parasite cleanses. And then you have these people who habitually do parasite cleanses, and they're doing it time and time and time and time and time again. They're doing it once a month. They're doing it twice a month. It becomes this almost this addiction, social media addiction, because then they post about it on social media like, hey, I did another parasite cleanse. Look what I got. Boom. And it'll show pictures. Number one, I've seen a lot of the pictures of these parasites that are coming out. And they're not parasites. They're the mucosal plaquing of the intestinal tract lining. And somebody told them along the way that that is a parasite. It is not. It's the mucosal lining of the gut. And the mimosa pudica seed that they're using in these cell core products or microbiome products are designed to rough up that tract and can actually eliminate a poor mucosal lining and give you a new one to start. That's step one. Step two, if you are consistently having parasites or needing to do parasite cleanses, there's something more seriously going wrong with your body, right? We're surrounded by parasites all the time. And is it true that some of us have parasites? Yeah. In fact, I'm trying to find the research on the percent of the population who has parasites, and nobody agrees. No research body agrees, no papers agree, no articles agree, no doctors agree. We just know that they are all around us. And so I hear a lot of the times I'll be in the middle of a protocol with a patient that we're working on killing infections. We already did a stool test to confirm that there were no parasites, none of that being present within. And they're like, hey, I saw so-and-so post on Instagram about these parasite cleanses and it said these are the symptoms, and I think that I have them, and I would like to do a parasite cleanse. I'm like, well, you don't have parasites. We tested. There wasn't anything in there. They're like, oh, but I want to do it. I'm like, all right. If you want to do it, go for it. Again, it's not going to hurt you. And that's the thing here to preface is doing a parasite cleanse isn't going to hurt you per se, but it is going to cause disruption in the microbiome, especially if you're using all three or even four of these products. Some of them are going to be natural broad spectrum antimicrobials or antiparasitics. And so if you're using them on a consistent basis and you actually don't have parasites at all, you're constantly bombing your microbiome. So your probiotics are going to continuously decrease, right? Just like that, if you just use an antibiotic once a month, you're going to have similar impacts of that. So you don't want to do this for a consistent basis. Now, if you are doing these parasite cleanses and you continuously see that you have parasites coming through, we need to address two things. One, the reconsumption of these parasites, and most parasites come through fecally contaminated food or water. So we need to make sure that your food sources are clean, and we need to make sure that your water is filtered so you're not continuously drinking in parasitic water. Now, I know people who will draw from a spring, some will have a well, some will have these gunked up filters that they've used time and time again. And there can be cysts or trophs, or so cysts are like little baby parasites, or trophs are more adults. And you could drink them in through the water, even in natural spring water, because parasites are natural in nature. But if it's still, coming and is clinging on to you and is causing harm to you, there's a bigger issue. Okay, there's always a bigger issue. There's a cause as to why you continuously become infected by these parasites. Okay, so we're going to go over a lot of this today. We're going to go over the hows, we're going to go over the symptoms, we're going to go over everything that you want to do. And if you truly want to do a parasite cleanse at the end, I can have my team plug a parasite cleanse if you want to, but I would strongly recommend just doing a stool test. Figure out if you have the causal factors to continuously make you susceptible to parasites. Okay, so let me get my notes out here. So Where do they come from? Like I said, most often they're going to be fecally contaminated food or water. We could spread them in some social settings. Giardia is a very common one. You could pass that through daycare settings as well. So if you're changing diapers, or if you're babysitting a kid, you're changing diaper, you can get that in fecally contaminated. You could get that and then just in a nostril, then boom, it goes down into the throat. There are some parasites that will actually hook into the heels, go up and hijack the circulatory system, go up. It's just gross. Go into the lungs, and then you cough it. You cough it up, and then boom, it drops down to the esophagus, goes into the stomach, goes into the small, large intestine. Okay? There's plenty of ways that these things can hook onto and attach and attack us. The common denominator is that if we are a weakened enough host, then the parasite could take root. Okay? So again, we can't necessarily protect our heels per se. I want you to be grounding outside, but say you have a dog or cats, or you've got horses, or you raise animals, you work on a farm. Make sure that you're doing dewormers on those animals, and make sure that you're picking up after those animals too. If you're mucking the stalls, make sure you're wearing gloves, make sure that you're not rubbing your nose. I know sometimes it's hard to do because it's dusty in there, but at the same time, we want to try to eliminate as much transmission as we can to our internal bodies. That's step one. So we don't want to re-administer ourselves or reinfect ourselves with parasites as we're trying to get rid of them. Number two, the reason the parasites will go through and actually harm us is going to be through our stomach, which not many people talk about. There's only one person that I saw in a year and a half. It's Drew Cannoli. He was the only one who was like, hey, if you've got an issue here, it's your stomach. Your stomach acid should take care of this for you. Now, we know stomach acid, the pH is of 2, around 2 or so. And what we don't know is like that if we took our stomach acid and we threw it on our cars, it would completely eat the paint away. It would strip the paint. So if we have proper stomach acid and we eat an infection, that infection is going to have that same impact. It's going to be stripped raw. It's not going to be able to take root or take host within our bodies. So we need to work on proper stomach acid. If we have a depleted rate of stomach acid, we need to think about causative agents or causative factors that can cause decrease in stomach acid, which is number one, chronic stress. Chronic stress causes depletion in parasympathetic function, decrease in stomach acid, and then leaves us more susceptible to infections. Not just parasites, but bacteria, E. coli infections, you name it. I mean, we're ultimately going to be weakening our immune system, weakening our stomach acid. We're going to be more susceptible to these things. There's a book as well. There is a book called I think it's called The Chronic Stress Crisis. And what they did, it's actually kind of funny, is they tested these inmates. They wanted to see what their secretory IgA was. Okay, secretory IgAs are our immune system, not just in our gut, but anywhere there's mucosal lining, right? Sinuses, throat, lungs, esophagus, all the way down to the exit. Okay, everywhere that there is mucosal lining, we create something. It's a secretory IgA, immunoglobulin A. Now, what's going to happen is if we have chronic stress or chronic infections, or we have chronic poor lifestyle habits, secretory IgA is going to steadily drop. Okay. So what they did was they mapped out secretory IgA, and they saw people who were immunocompromised or had low stomach or low secretory IgA, and then they had normals, and then they gave them Giardia water to drink, and they just laughing at it. They just wanted to see what would happen. And so those with proper secretory IgA, the parasite came in, gave them symptoms for like a day or two, and then was completely gone because their stomach acid depleted, just crushed it and pushed it out. And so the symptoms associated with that were the Herxheimer reaction, so the die-off that would take place from Giardia basically dying within and getting pushed out. We do absorb toxins that way, and then we push them out. And then they had the immunocompromised who they took it, and they're like, oh crap, like these guys are getting really sick. Ton of symptoms. I think the symptoms will last for like a week or two, and they treat them with antibiotics or antiparasitics to try to like kill it off. And so what they found is that the stronger your secretory IgA was, your immune system was, the better your chances are to be able to fight off any type of parasites that you were going to have, right? So when we're talking about doing these parasite cleanses, if your immune system is compromised, if you're chronically stressed, if you're not sleeping at night, there's so many American-made factors to having a weakened immune system, then you will be more susceptible to parasites. That being said, parasites aren't as common as most people would think it to be. If you go to a different country, that's a different story. Third world countries, sure, there's going to be more parasites there. But if you're going to get parasites here, it's typically going to be animal-based. If you're going to like a sushi restaurant that has like poor grade sushi, they don't pick the right fish. This goes back to a story real quick with my best friends, Elliot Schwartz and Johnny L. Sasser. We went fishing in Charleston, off the coast of Charleston, deep sea fishing. We were pulling these awesome fish in, and you'd see these parasites growing on the side of these fish. You're like, oh my God, this is disgusting. You throw the fish back. Well, there are some people who don't care about that. They just want to basically get the fish, gut it, and have the fillets, and the parasites are going to be in there, and you're going to eat them. Whether it's the cysts, again, little baby eggs, or you're going to be like the trophes of it. So that's disgusting, I know. But moving on from that, we need to have that strong immune system response. If we don't have a strong immune system for everything, we're going to be more susceptible to infections and recurring infections. Okay, so clean up your water, make sure you wash your hands before you eat, cook your food to the proper food temperature as well to kill any type of bacteria, parasites that could be within it. And then we want to make sure that our internal secretory IgA is up to par. Where do you find that out? Stool test. Right? So stool test GI map is going to be one of the best ones in order to find that secretory IgA. You can go to my lab shop and get that. And you also test for your parasites there, the majority of them. And that's basically it. Now, in terms of the stomach acid, of the people that I test, I would probably wager to guess maybe 5 or 6 out of the thousands of patients I've worked with had proper stomach acid. About 5 to 6 people, not percent people. They're usually just massively depleted, whether that's through an infection known as Helicobacter pylori. It's a bacteria that takes place in the stomach and the mouth, the oral cavity, or it's due to the chronic stress response, where they're constantly just stressed out. It could also be because they had acid reflux once and they've been told to take Prilosec or these antacids or these proton pump inhibitors to suppress that stomach acid. And what's occurring is we're having too low of stomach acids, causing more of a GERD type symptomatology, right? So these are signs and symptoms that our stomach acid is not up to snuff. There's other little tests and stuff that you can do as well to test for it. But one of the ways you could do it is a betaine pill, betaine hydrochloric acid. Get about 500 to 750 milligrams of betaine, put that pill in there and see if you take one pill and you eat, do you have any type of heartburn symptoms or any indigestion? If not, then you have low stomach acid. Okay, if you take it and you do have some pain with it, it could mean that you are sufficient, or it can mean that you just pissed off H. pylori. And this is why I don't typically tell people to take betaine HCl or hydrochloric acid without properly testing. This is why I tell everyone, test. If you want to mess with yourself, then go ahead and try the betaine, but you can have some unfun symptoms associated with it. It's still really not going to answer the question of where your stomach is at. Okay, so let's continue on from here. So what are some symptoms? With all that being said, what are some symptoms of parasites? You're going to have cramping, so stomach cramping, pain, nausea, vomiting, dehydration, weight loss is super huge. You can have skin rashes, swollen lymph nodes, digestive issues with an IBS, rashes, eczema, hives, itchy skin, infertility is huge as well. Miscarriage is big with parasites here too. Muscle and joint pain, headache, chronic fatigue syndrome as well. Just because remembering what parasites want to do, they don't want to kill us per se. Now, Entamoeba histolytica, that's a different one. That is designed to just basically eat us from the inside out. Entamoeba histolytica, histo is tissue, lytic is lysis, so it's destruction of your tissues. It literally just destroys your body from within. Usually hides up in the liver as well, so it makes it difficult to track on tests. But I have worked with and I have treated multiple infections naturally, actually, with Entamoeba histolytica with a great response from our patients. Anyways, moving on. So they usually like to hide in the body. They usually like to hide in the blood, the GI, lymph, fat tissue, and then the liver. Liver is huge. You can have liver flukes and things that come out with some of these parasite cleanses. But either way, remembering the liver does empty out into the colon. So if you test the colon, you test for the stool, you're going to test for a lot of these things. Same with the blood, the lymph, fat, all that's basically going to be purging these parasites in there. Okay. The other thing that is interesting, okay, this is exposure. So this is a true story with my kid, with my son. So so is my daughter. They're both in this Montessori school. It's really awesome. Arrowhead Montessori, they're a great school. And they have a farm basically on the school. They have like a bunch of animals and stuff, goats. I think they had a peacock at one point, chickens running around. Like, it's really cool when you go and pick them up. It's like you're in your own little Shangri-La. Like, oh, it's beautiful. But my son he loves being outdoors. He loves being a helper of Miss Kelsey. And so he'll be helping with the goats, shoveling poop or feeding the animals. And so he's constantly in and around these things. And so I did a stool test on him. I'm like, where the heck did this kid get a worm from? And I'm like, oh crap, it's from school. Then initially I'm like, oh, son of a bitch, like this is ridiculous. I'm like, but wait, looking into the research, early exposure with kids with parasites and with worms actually works to boost their immune system throughout their lifetime. So if you get a parasite infection, your body, just like anything else, is going to develop antibodies against that infection. So next time you get it, your body's ready to go. Boom, it attacks it, it's good to go, and you're good to go. The only time that doesn't work in your favor is, again, if you have a low secretory IgA, because your immune system doesn't have enough components to be able to create a nice immune response to attack these types of things. So white blood cells will come down, eosinophils, neutrophils, all these things will start to kind of go down, taper down, because we don't have that strong immune system that we are supposed to have. So yeah, we get it that way. And then when we come to the immune system, we talked about the stress, we talked about diet, but this can also be medicine related. So antibiotics, or there are certain medications, birth controls can decrease or weaken the microbiome, which could then leave us more susceptible to recurring infections. So we have to put all of these pieces together. And my goal in this is to basically say, like, stop being fucking fooled by people on social media who don't know really what parasites are. They just got sold by some sort of like health coach or something, like, just do parasite cleanses. And all you have to do is parasite cleanses. If you want to change your life, do a parasite cleanse. It's like, they're making so much money off of you. And they're like, oh, just do it every full moon. I'm like, God dang. Like, yeah, parasites are most active during a full moon. You can have insomnia because it's going to eat the melatonin. It's going to cause a decrease in serotonin production too. So you can have anxiety, mood disorders, sleep disturbances and stuff. So it's best to kill it around the full moon. However, you're just fucking with it during a 7-day cycle, right? And most parasites have a 60-day life cycle from baby to adult, 60 days. So if you're just smacking them for a couple of days, well, you still have babies that could be in 60 days or 2 months could be parasites again. And so for these people that are like, oh, I'll just keep doing these cleanses, like, guys, do it for a full 60 days, get it done with, retest, make sure the parasites aren't there anymore, and then make sure that your stomach acid is strong, your immune system is strong, and make sure you don't eat dirty stuff. It's really that easy. It truly, truly is. In the general population, man, I test everybody from, I have a huge Amish population that I'm blessed to be able to work with, to, the general population, to high-level entrepreneurs, to kids, to people in different countries. Every patient that comes in gets tested for a stool test. And in that, there are certain categories in which people will get parasites. And usually it's unfortunate, but the majority of the time, the Amish are the big culture that's hit. But why? It's not necessarily the immune system component. There is a piece to it because they do eat a lot of inflammatory food. They do have an increased stress in life, but it's because they use their hands a lot. They're farming, they're planting, they're using organic soils. And basically they're getting it in that way, or contaminated food or contaminated water, and then it just basically gets passed all around. And then they'll have church services in other people's homes that can have contaminated water, and then they have this issue where they have mold in their home that's weakening their immune system, which is then allowing them to be more susceptible to infections. So in the generalized population, I mean, this isn't a big research study. I could say that in my experience, if you live in that culture, if you live in a culture where you're a primary farmer, you're typically going to have exposure to more parasites. So we then have to make your immune system strong enough, your stomach acid strong enough, your home strong enough to make sure that you're not continuously absorbing this stuff. And if you do, your body can fight it, kill it, and get rid of it. So you may only have symptoms for a day or two, and then it washes out. Okay, that's how our bodies are designed to be. Our bodies are designed to protect us and keep us safe. So again, the things that cause that weakened immune system or the weakened secretory IgA, it's going to be antibiotics, gluten, stress, immunosuppressants. So if you're on something for an autoimmune disease causing your body to have a suppressed immune system, you're then going to have a higher rate of infections. That's why those commercials basically say that, right? The Western diet and lifestyle, right, work until you die, is what allows us to have that weakened immune system to make us have a higher prevalence of parasites within our culture, okay? So if there's like what do I do? And I don't know what to do. Number one is stop being lied to, stop being fooled, stop being tricked by marketing gimmicks. I mean, if you look at parasites are disgusting. They're disgusting little creatures. When you look at them under a microscope, they're just gross. They like come from the great unknown. They're like from the depths of hell. They come out these giant, with like a million little fucking razor sharp teeth. And like, ugh. I think of you ever watch Beetlejuice? Sandworms. You hate them? I hate them too. Like that's what I think of. That, or like tremors, those worms that are coming. Like that's what I visualize parasites as. So, so we have to make sure that we're not being exposed to these things. Okay. We have to make sure that we're not being lied to. Parasites are gross. They are disgusting for sure. But if you want to truly know if you have parasites or not, instead of spending all of your money on 2 or 3 parasite cleanses, spending on properly testing your guts. Because not only will it tell you if you have parasites, if you actually have parasites, okay, it will tell you what type of parasite that you have, because there's a ton of different types. There are other ones that respond better to certain herbs than others. And then there are others where there may be an instance like Entamoeba histolytica, where some clinicians might say, hey, listen, this is life-threatening. You need to go get some antibiotics, some antiparasitics to get rid of this. Get this thing out of your body as soon as you can, because it's highly aggressive. These over-the-counter parasite cleanses, they're just kind of roughing up your body and trying to get rid of some of the debris. And again, you can feel better from doing some of these, but I would rather know exactly, 1, do I have them? 2, what types do I have? How many do I have? And then 3, why am I getting these things? Right? What does my stomach acid look like? What's the elastase look like on my test? What about my immune system? What about secretory IgA? And do I have leaky guts? And is leaky gut caused from this parasitic infection, or is the leaky gut there before due to other infections? The other thing people don't talk about is with parasites, you typically have a candida component to it. Antiparasitics aren't going to cross over to the antifungals, right? So we have to talk diet, we have to talk lifestyle, and it's not going to change in 7 days or 3 days or 2 days or 1 day of doing this full moon cleanse. You have to have the proper diagnosis and the proper protocol built to not only get rid of these parasites, but to make sure that they don't come back, right? You don't want them back. You don't. And if you do get them back, you want your body to kill it, crush it, get rid of it. So that way you just have maybe a day or 2 feeling like crap, you move on from it, and then you're good to go. Okay. This is also the instance too where a lot of people will travel abroad that I work with. You know, a lot of entrepreneurs. I have a guy that's going over to India right now. I have people that go to Mexico all the time, Costa Rica, Bali. These people will go there, and if their immune systems are strong, right, they won't pick up these infections. Because if you come back to the States, you go to your doc and you're like, oh, I'm having these stomach troubles, and their question, have you been out of the country, right? Because they assume that you picked up a parasite. And so all these people have these preconceived notions when they work with me. They're like, well, every time I go out of the country, I get sick. I'm knocked out for a while. And it's like, well, yeah, the old version of you had a weakened immune system. The old version of you could not ward off any type of internal burden because you already had enough that your body was trying to fight to begin with. Now we put them back over there and they're like, Doc, I came back. I was totally fine. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I lost weight while I was there. I was stress-free. I had all the energy I could possibly think of. I drank the water. I ate the food. And I really got the full experience. And that's how we should be able to be in life. We should be able to get the full experience of life. So don't be fooled by what you see on the gram. Don't be fooled on TikTok. Don't be fooled by these health coaches with no doctoral degree saying parasites are the only thing that you need to do. No. In fact, I'll use some of the products that the companies will suggest for certain parasites, like Cellcore. I'll use their products. I don't believe in a lot of stuff that Cellcore has to offer. Mainly because it is a cookie cutter approach. You go to one Cellcore doctor, they're going to do the same thing as the Cellcore doctor two towns down, next state over, and it's a one size fits all. The only thing that changes is the dosing. And it's how sensitive is that person. Start with the drainage, work from here, do this, do that, do this, do that. So you have these types of people. Then you have the muscle testers who will say, you have parasites. Let's go ahead and let's muscle test you, see if you got parasites. These people drive me fucking crazy. Because there's also a sect of this, and it happened during COVID, that they're like, well, now I want to learn how to do virtual muscle testing. And I'm big with the spiritual energies and the weird woo-woo guru, all that stuff. I'm big with that. But if you're telling me that you're not going to have any interference with energy while using Wi-Fi or 5G to communicate, and you need somebody else to go ahead and muscle test for you, and you're going to accurately diagnose somebody with that, I call bullshit. The other thing is the bioelectrical impedances. So grabbing on a little mouse looking thing, the old school mouses, if people still use those anymore, grab one of those, you'll get a scan, and I'm like, oh, you've got parasite burden. Do you? Because those aren't reliable. If you look at the research in it, test and test and test, when you do consecutive tests throughout the day, bioelectrical impedance is completely different. And I'll go to the in-body scan. One of the most crazy, awesome things of the future, if you ask me. And you go and you hold it, but there are so many specific parameters to make sure you get an accurate read on it. And I screwed it up the other day for my coach. Like, as an in-body in the gym, I'm just going to use it post-workout, midday, grab it. And I'm like, okay, good, let's go. Weight was 203. I'm like, sweet. And then my body fat came back at 6%. I'm like, all right, I'm not that vain. I know that I'm not 6% body fat. And like everything was like, no fat, no fat, no fat. I'm like, I don't think so. I'm not ready to step on stage right now. When I competed, I was like a 5.5%, 6%, and I had nothing on my body at all. So I talked to my coach and I read through all the in-body instructions. Like, you can't have too much water. You can't have caffeine. You can't have just worked out. You want to do it first thing in the morning. It's like boom, 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 boom. But yet you have these doctors who are like, just come into the office and just put your hand here. Then I'll tell you what you have and we'll treat you. And then you come back in, oh, I have to do this. And you just leave with $100,000 worth of bullshit. And you're like, okay, that wasn't really working. Right? It still doesn't get to the bottom cause of why you had those parasites to begin with. Okay? So number one, don't be fooled. Number two, test yourself. You can do a GI map. There's plenty of other tests. Genova has a test that you could use too that'll test for a bunch of parasites there too. Test it. Make sure you look at the stomach acid. Make sure you do an adrenal analysis too. If you really want to get to the cause, make sure you check out your adrenals. What are they doing? Are you stressed out? Well, that's causing your depletion of your stomach acid as well as your weakened secretory IgA. What do? You can do a parasite cleanse if you want to, but I would say as a minimum, do 2 months of it. Don't just do the full moon cleanse, do a full 2 months. If you've got them, you'll kill them in 60 days, retest it afterwards, and see if you still have parasites being present. Okay? What I would strongly recommend is doing one, getting with me. I'll read it with you. Okay, there's obviously a fee associated with it. I'll read it with you and build out a protocol for you to make sure that you kill it, you don't get it back, and you're good to go. I can't say this enough. Don't be fooled by the influencers out there. If you've got them, you can kill them. If you don't got them, you shouldn't be treating them. And if you do want to know if you have them or not, test. Okay? Simple as that. Real nice and easy. They can cause massive harm on the body. But at the end of the day, we have to figure out the why. We have to figure out the cause. Otherwise, you will be doing this for the rest of your life. You will be doing parasite cleanses for forever. And you'll still be feeling like shit for forever. Because there's other symptoms, right? Low stomach acid, leaky gut, low secretory IgA. It's not just going to stop at the parasites. You're going to be sick all the time, right? So you're going to constantly be down. You're going to constantly be having coughs, colds, illnesses, allergies, you name it. And it's just going to continuously build up on you. So be smart. Next time you see it, ask yourself that question. Do I want to just treat this, or do I want to find a cause? If you want to find the cause, get on my shop, go buy a GI map. It'll get sent to you. If you don't even want me to read it, you don't need it. It'll say parasites, and it'll say parasites, protozoas, worms on page 4. So page 1 and page 4, you'll get all that information. Page 2, you'll see if you have H. pylori. You'll also see if you have any problems with the microbiome. Page 4 will also let you know if you have liver gallbladder dysfunction, which can sometimes be a resultant due to parasite activity. You can see, the elastase. You can see your stomach acid, leaky gut. You'll see everything that you need to know when it comes to your gut. And honestly, it's pretty self-explanatory. You can Google it yourself if you want to, but if you need somebody like a doctor like myself to read it, happy to do it. Okay, so hopefully this information is helpful. I know my team that's going to be editing my podcast for me has been wanting me to do this topic for a while. So here it is, guys and gals. So hopefully, like I said, it was helpful. If you have any questions at all, don't ever hesitate to reach out on this topic, because I love what I do and I love talking about it. So talk to you next time. Thanks for tuning in, as always.